Welcome all to this Python 3 course. Now, before we begin with the actual course itself, I wanted to go over a few things with you, introduce you to the course a little bit, and explain some of the additional features that we offer along with the course as well. So, the very first thing that you need to take into consideration are the pre-requirements when taking any course out there. We have some very basic pre-requirements for this course. I mean, they are the basic of the basic pre-requirements. You need a functional computer and you need some basic computer skills. You basically need to know how to power your computer on, log in, and from that point onwards, we will guide you through pretty much the whole process. We strive not to skip any steps when explaining anything pretty much. Okay, so another thing that you get with this course and that you get with pretty much any of my courses is the tech support. So if you post in the discussion section, if you have problems with the code, or if you're unable to do something, or you get some sort of errors or something like that, you can always post in the discussion section and somebody will be there to answer your inquiries. Perhaps not me personally, but one of the staff members will come. There are people who are watching those discussion sections, and we will strive to help you out in any way that we can. So, if you have a problem, post it in the discussion section first. If it's really that big of a problem and cannot be solved in the discussion section, you can send me a PM. I strive to answer all of the private messages. As a last resort, for whatever reason, if the site is not functional or something like that, you can send me an email. But if you can send me a private message or if you can post in the discussion section, please do so. Email is like the last resort, like really the last resort. But I will strive to answer all of your inquiries. No guarantees there, but we will try. And more often than not, we actually manage to answer all of our questions. Okay, so in addition to that, so to the support and the pre-requirements, we also accept suggestions. So if you're watching the course and if you feel like that certain subjects were not processed or that are missing, or just feel like that you want to learn something about another subject that is related to the course, feel free to send us suggestions. I make no guarantees, but I will read those mails, and if I can squeeze it in time-wise, I will be more than happy to add additional videos. This is not just empty talk. We generally tend to add videos in the courses across the board. So if you have any suggestions, like, okay, I would like this subject to be processed or that subject to be processed, send them. And I will be more than happy to take them into consideration to see if it's actually doable. Can we actually squeeze it into the course? If you have a request for a new course, a particular subject which you would like to be processed, feel free to send those suggestions as well, and we'll see what we can do about that. Another very important matter, feedback. So please leave us an honest review, and when you do leave a review, if you leave a bad review, please write why. So there is a section for that. Everybody can leave feedbacks. Everybody that's enrolled in the course, that is. And if you do leave a bad review, please just write why. So you can say perhaps the sound quality was bad, or the video, or the subject was poorly explained, whatever. Make sure to state why. It's very important to us because only then can we actually improve. Some additional resources are my GitHub repositories. You don't need to register or anything like that. You can just get some of the code there. It's pretty much all GPL licensed. And the YouTube channel. So on the YouTube channel, I tend to post some videos that I, for logical reasons, cannot post into the Udemy courses. So for example, if you would like to know, if you are having problems with setting the environment up, the development environment on a Mac or in a Linux or something like that, you can send me a private message or post it in the discussion section and say, hey, Ermin, can you help us out with this? And then I can post a video on YouTube, like, just to help you out. It's completely free. There are no logins that are required or registration or whatever. You just get a link, you click, and you watch, and it helps you out in a sense that your problems get solved. Anyway, that's it. I hope that you do enjoy the course, and I wish you a ton load of luck with it.
Hello and welcome to our Python tutorial series. To start off, we're going to show you how to install Python. So it's pretty simple. So you're just going to head on over to your web browser, and we're going to search for download Python. Click the first link, download Python at python.org. So the version we're going to be using in this tutorial is 3.52. You can find it, download it from this when you click this button right here. So you just click that and it automatically gives you a file. You save that. Just wait for the download. So just gotta wait for that. So we're just gonna be using 3.5 because you'll notice throughout the series, we'll discuss some differences between version 3.52 and the version 2.7. But they're pretty similar, just some minor differences, some arguably pointless differences, but whatever. So we're just gonna wait for this download. It's taking a long time for some reason. I don't know, but anyway, just waiting. Waiting. Okay, there we go. So we're going to run this file. We're just going to install now. Say yes to all the dialogues. We're just doing express installation. We don't need to tweak with anything. And while that's installing, we're going to just close the browser. We don't need that anymore. So we're just going to wait for this to install. It's pretty simple. You just have to install like any normal executable file in Windows. And we're going to be after this installs, I'm going to just actually show you something else we're going to need for later when building Python scripts through both the console and in our IDE, which we'll be talking about in the next video. So this is about finished up. There we go. Okay, so now we have Python installed. So when we search for in the start menu py, we have Python. So what we're going to need to add an environmental variable to Windows for Python itself, so we can actually run Python through the Windows command prompt and use it later in our IDE. So first we're going to find the location of Python. So it gives you a shortcut. You're just going to go once again to open file location. And here we have this directory. So we're going to just keep this like this, to set this aside for later. And what we're going to do now, we're going to open the start menu and we're going to search for envi. So if you don't have it automatically for some reason, you can just you just find this PC, the longer way. So you find this PC, you're going to right click and you go to properties and you're going to go to advanced system settings. And here, we can close this now, we're going to see environmental variables. So that's what we're looking for. Okay, so down below here, you can see you're going to click this edit, not the one above, the one below. Well, actually, we're going to look for one called path. And then we're going to click edit. Path is capital P and lowercase ATH. So here we go. Here are some environmental variables from path, and we're going to add a new one. We're going to create a new one. So we're going to click new, and then we're going to copy this directory. So we're going to copy that. And okay, so new, copy, and that's it. And in case for safe measure, sometimes I'm not sure myself, but I like to add the actual executable files. So we can do the following. Hold on, let me just find the, actually, let me just take this and we're just going to say slash, and I'm casting up on the keyboard. So slash python.exe. Yeah, and I believe that checks out. So, okay. So just in case we need something. So now everything's set up and ready to go for Python using Python. And in the next tutorial, we'll actually be showing how to set up our customized IDE, which I hope you tune into. So that pretty much concludes the tutorial. We hope you enjoy this series. Hello everyone. Before we move on to programming further in Python, we are going to set up our IDE. Now, I like to use Sublime Text. So we're going to open up our web browser and search for Sublime Text to download. So Sublime Text. I'm running on a 64-bit machine, so I use 64-bit. If you're running a 32-bit, just install 32-bit version. So it's downloaded, we're going to download it, and we're going to install it. And you'll notice later that we'll have to manually implement the Python interpreter so we can actually run Python files in Sublime Text. So we're going to install it. All right, close that. It's all finished. Now let's find our Python interpreter path. So when you search for Python in the Start menu, open File Location. And now for convenience sake, we're going to rename the Python file, the executable file that is, to Python with lower cases. So in my case, it's already done, but if it's different, right click, rename, and type in Python, all lowercase. Moving on, let's open, oops, I actually accidentally closed it. So Python, and then you go to your open file location, and then on the shortcut, you see from that search, you do go to properties, and there should be a target field. You're going to want to copy this for later. You're going to save that for later. We'll show you what to do. Just save this for later. So let's open Notepad. So we have this on the side. Just keep a Notepad window open. Just save this path for later. And remember, this is arbitrary. So it could be different on your machine depending on where you installed Python. But on my machine, this is what it is. If you can't see it right now, don't worry. We'll zoom in later. So we're going to minus that. All right, so we have the target. Now let's open Sublime Text. So Sublime. All right, here's Sublime Text. Pretty simple, right? But first, before diving into things, we're going to have to set up the build system, that is. So here it says Python already, but this doesn't work because we tested it and there were some issues with the path. So we're going to manually make a new build system. So you're going to go to Tools, Build System, and then on the bottom you have New Build System like I just did. All right, so here's our new build. It's empty right now. So what we're going to do, we're going to open this. I have this piece of code, this piece of text saved. And you're going to want to copy this exact text, and I'll explain what it is in a sec. So we're going to copy this and paste it into here. And you'll see where our path comes into play. I already have it pasted in here for the sake of time. So you're going to have to paste the path from this file we opened in Notepad. Remember the file we opened in Notepad, we're going to open that and copy it to here. This is the path. And you have to remember that we're in Windows. So we have to use backslashes, and we're using double backslashes because they're escape characters. So be sure to use those double slashes in the path portion of this piece of text for the build. So when we're done, we have this copy pasted and everything, all the path is set. We're going to save this, and then we're going to save it as Python with a capital P, Python dot sublime dash build. So what this is, we created our own build system. We're going to save. All right, now we have Sublime build. So let's make a Python file. So what we're going to do, we're going to make a new file. We're going to first save as. You don't have to do it like this, but this is how I do it. Save as. And we're going to name it test.py. That's a Python file extension. Oh, and of course, don't forget, if you're automatically inside a folder, go to the desktop. for simplicity's sake. So save it as test.py. All right, so here's our Python file. And don't forget to apply the build system itself. So system, as you can see, we added another Python build system. The first one, as I said before, does not work. So here's the build, second one, choose the second one. All right, so now we should have color coding for functions and stuff. So let's do welcome. So here's our line of code, print in Python. And in order to run this, we're going to do Control B, which is build. And as you can see, welcome printed in the console. And so now we have a full working Python IDE with Sublime Text. That is all for this tutorial. Please tune in next time. Welcome back, everyone. Now we're going to talk about data types. In order to help us illustrate what data types we have, we're going to use the function type. My bad, type. What this function does, it tells the interpreter to output the type of whatever's in the parentheses. So let's start with type 2. What this is integer. An integer is any number, whole number, no decimal points. Let's do type now with 2.2. This is a floating point number. As you can see, there is a decimal point and numbers coming after the decimal point. Let's do a really long integer now. 2 with lots of zeros. In version 2.7, this would be a long integer. However, in version 3.5, this is a regular integer. Let's move on to type of true. If you're familiar with this, this is a Boolean. Boolean is basically true or false, 1 or 0. Now, a specific thing in Python we have is how we deal with characters. My bad. So let's see here. A single character is interpreted as a string. That's because in Python, single characters are considered single-lettered strings. And we'll see the same type come out when we do ABC. It is also a string. So that concludes what data types we're going to be dealing with in Python. Next time we'll be doing variables. Hello everyone. Today we're going to make our very first Python program. To do this, we're going to simply use print. What print does is print a string to the screen. Now inside the parentheses we pass whatever string or other variables or arguments that we want to print out. As you can see, after writing that statement and pressing enter, it displays welcome to the screen. Now, in older versions of Python, in version 2.7 of Python, the syntax is a little different. This is written like this. Print, no parentheses, welcome. I can't type today, sorry about that. I'll get better, I promise. So as you can see, we wrote with the old syntax, but it didn't work in the new version, as it says missing parentheses in call to print. So that concludes this tutorial. We successfully made our first program where it prints welcome to the screen. I hope you'll join us next time where we'll be talking about data types. Hello everyone. In this tutorial, we're going to learn how to clear the screen in Python. So first we're going to type out import OS, press enter, clear equals lambda colon OS dot system in parentheses, single quotes, CLS, close parentheses, press enter. And when we use clear every time now, it'll clear the screen. Now, if you're wondering where I got this from, I just looked on the net for clearing the screen in Python. It's pretty simple, and that is all for this tutorial. Alright, before moving on and digging deeper into programming in Python, let's talk about the importance of indentation. If you're familiar with other programming languages, blocks of code are separated, for example, in C++ and C with curly braces, and PL and SQL and Pascal use begin and end. Now, in Python, we use indentation, so we basically press the tab key to have a blank empty white space in front of pseudocode here, as we can see. So here we have two functions. We'll talk about functions later, don't worry, in our later tutorial, with pseudocode statements. As you can see here, the indentation separates the blocks of code. As you can see, this statements 1 to 3 are one block, and statements 4 to 5 are another block. So, as you can see, this code is a lot more readable and aesthetically pleasing, unlike before or in other cases where we had jumbled code just all over the place. This is actually, it helps us read it better and it's more organized. And that is all for this tutorial. We'll see you next time. Let's talk about variables. If you're not familiar with variables themselves, that's okay. We're here to talk about them. So a variable is basically a reserved memory location with some value in it. So let's write our first variable, number equals 2. All right, so if you've noticed in our previous tutorials, values we've used before are basically gone once they're used. But in the case of number right here, 2 can be reused over and over again. So let's make some more numbers. Variables, my bad. Real word equals, let's say a word. Okay, now let's see how these can be reused. So let's say a word, and we see word. So let's do type of word, and we get class string. So basically we reuse word again and again. Moving on, let's try assigning one value to multiple variables. So let's say A equals B equals C. Now, this is pretty logical as in like in mathematics. You just have multiple variables and you assign one value. So let's demonstrate and see if this works. Print A 1.5, print B 1.5, and print C 1.5. As you can see, this worked. So let's talk about the comma operator now. What this does basically, it can take multiple variables and assign multiple respective values to them. So let's have 1, 2, 3. Those are our 3 variables. And we have 1 as in the number, 2 as in the string, the word, and 3.0 as in 3 in the floating point form. All right, so now we have our variables. And now let's see if this worked. So let's do print 1. We get 1. And print 2. We get 2. And print 3. We should get 3.0. All right. So now let's demonstrate the dynamic nature of variables in Python. So let's reassign number as 1. And then let's make a string called str and inside it string. And then let's say number again, but this time equals string. And if you've noticed, and if you're familiar with other programming languages, this might kind of look weird to you, but in Python, this is kind of unique. It's unique to Python. So basically, you could dynamically assign variables. You don't have to basically first define the type and the variable name to initialize it. In Python, you can just write a string variable name and its value. You don't have to worry about initializing it. And that's what makes Python pretty dynamic. And it's also important to note that variable names should be pretty descriptive, self-descriptive that is. So be sure to name, for example, string. If it's going to be a string, be sure it's pretty logical so you won't get confused later. Like, don't name string if it's a number and number if it's a string. Just be sure that you make variable names that are pretty logical and easy to understand. So moving on, let's see what things we can't give as names in variables. So first we're going to do import keyword and keyword dot kw list. So these are keywords. Basically, they are specific words reserved in Python for specific purposes and functions, like as we saw with print and type. So don't give any names to your variables that are in this list. And that is all for this tutorial on variables. Hello everyone. Now segueing from the last tutorial with inline comments, some of you may ask, where are the multi-line comments? Well, in Python, they're written like this. So we're going to use 3 quotation marks. So that's the quotation key, double quote key without the shift. So basically apostrophes, 3 apostrophes. So here you go. So this opens the multi-line comment, and we close it with another 3 quotation marks. As you can see, inside is a bunch of comments. So this opens them, and 3 quotation marks closes them. This is comparable to the /* use characters in other programming languages if you're familiar. So this would open and this would close. This is kind of the same, it has the same functionality. All right, so this can be used to maybe block out a piece of code that you don't, a large piece of code that is, that you don't want to be compiled or interpreted, interpreted in Python, or you want to just write a long string of code of comments. So as you can see, anything comments, let's write some text. All right, so as you can see, there are multiple lines. You don't need multiple hashtags like the last time. It's just everything between this is just comments. So let's build this. And as you can see, the comments are not interpreted. So that concludes this tutorial. We hope to see you next time. Hey everyone. Now we're going to talk about comments. So if you're familiar with comments, what they are, basically, they help us organize our code and tell other programmers what our code does. So in Python, comments are notated with the hashtag symbol, or if any of you are older generation, the pound key. So when you write this, the hashtag symbol or the pound key, as I might say sometimes, anything afterwards is a comment. So this is a comment. As you can see in Sublime Text, it's notated with different colors. So you'll know this is a comment if it's a different color than this. Anyway, so anything after the hashtag is a comment. And this is actually an inline comment. So anything after the hashtag on the same line as that hashtag is going to be a comment. So if we wrote something afterwards, like just random text, see, as you can see, when I write the letters, it's white again. So that's not a comment. But when I add another hashtag, it's going to be comment. And then again, let's do it again. As you can see, comment. And if we run this code, let's do Control B. We're building in Sublime Text. As you can see, we are now working with comments. And the hashtags, anything behind the hashtags are not seen at all. They're not interpreted by Python. So let's erase those. All right. So to recap, they're one line only, and they're written as a hashtag, and anything after the hashtag is a comment. Now, this won't work in the middle of a string, so let's see that. As you can see, it's in the middle of a string and it's not in different color or anything. Let's build that. As you can see, the hashtag is included in this string. So remember, the hashtag must be kept outside of quotations in order to be a comment. And they're inline, so they only work with line per line. And that's it. That's all for this tutorial. See you next time. Okay, let's continue. So in this chapter, we're going to talk about manipulating numbers in Python. What this means is basically we'll be demonstrating basic mathematical operations, characteristics of dividing numbers, and then we'll talk about advanced arithmetic and operator precedence. But we'll also be talking about manipulation of binary numbers later on. So let's start with basic arithmetic. So we're talking about addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, which are all simple and intuitive. And the syntax is pretty much similar to other programming languages. So let's start with addition. We're going to do print in order to see our results on the screen. So print 2 plus 5, for example. So this result will be an integer because both operands are an integer. But if we add, for example, 2.2 we'll get 7.2 from this, as you can see. So if there's even one floating point number in the operation, then the result will be a floating point. See, I added 2.0 here. The result now will be 7.0. Moving on to subtraction. So subtraction is going to have a similar thing, similar event going down. So let's do 10 minus 5. And we're going to build that, it's 5. And if we had 10.0 instead of 10, we're going to write 10.0 minus 5, that is, we're going to build and we're going to get 5.0. Moving on to multiplication. This is the same case with multiplication. So let's do 40 times 30. We're going to get 1200. And if we do this times 0.5, we're going to get 600.0 because 0.5 is a floating point number. So let's talk about now a interesting specific thing to Python. That is called the exponent operator, which is basically written as 2 stars. So let's write something out. So we're going to write 2 star star 5. This is basically 2 to the power of 5, which is 32. And so in Python, you can't write this with the caret symbol. This won't work. Instead, you should be using, this is actually a binary operator, which we'll see later on. This is using binary logic, which we'll see later on. But what this is called in programming languages is a binary operator because it has 2 symbols in it, so star star. So as you can see, we will get 32. All right, and that concludes the tutorial on basic arithmetic. We hope to see you next time in our next tutorial. Now let's talk about binary numbers manipulation. In this sort of manipulation, in this operation with binary numbers, we use bitwise operators, which we'll dive into right now. So let's type out the print statement like we always do to display our results. Print. And now our first bitwise operator is the left shift, which is written as less than less than. So the first number on the left is our number to be shifted. And the number on the right after the operator is the amount of places to shift. So this number in binary, let's say we have 5 bits, we have 1. It's going to be shifted to the left 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, which gives us 8 because this is 2 to the power of 0, 2 to the power of 1, 2 to the power of 2, and 2 to the power of 3, which is 8. And as you'll see on the screen below, you'll get 8. Moving on to the right shift operator. It's the same thing, just it works the same way, just it shifts to the right. So let's take 2 numbers. Our number in question is 32. Remember, this number is converted to binary. So we have 32 in binary shifted 5 places to the right. So we have 6 bits, let's say, and this is 32 with the 6-bit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. And then we're going to shift it to the right. So what this result is going to give is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to give 1, as you'll see in the build below. As you can see, we got 1. Moving on to our other bitwise operators, the logical ones, AND, OR, and XOR. First, let's talk about AND. AND, what it is, it takes 2 values, and if both are true, then the result is true. So basically, if you have only either 2 ones on either side, then you get 1, as you'll see here. So we have these 2 numbers. Oops, my bad. I changed the operand. So on both sides now, these are both 2 numbers in binary. So let's write them out in binary. We're not going to build this right now. We're just going to demonstrate how these numbers look like. So 1 with 9 zeros, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, 1 with 9 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we have 0 with lots of 1s. The rest are 1s. 0 with 9 ones. So when we AND this, since none of these are 1, 1, we're just going to get 0. So you compare each one. each bit place. So 0, 1, 0, 1, and so on, 1, 0, all the way to the end. And you get the AND result, which will yield 0 because none of them are 1, 1. So none of these are 1, 1. They're all 1, 0, or 0, 0, or whatever. So as you'll see, the result is 0, which is just 10 zeros. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about OR. OR is another logical operator where if one side is true, then the rest is all true. At least one side is true, that is. So let's take our number from before. We're going to take our number, but this time we're going to OR it. That's notated with this line. Is shift, on the American keyboards, is shift backslash. It's right under the backspace button usually. Now let's talk about OR operating with OR. So 1, 0 is 1. We have all 1 zeros, so that means we have 1 on every time. So our result will be 511, which is 511, which is basically all these places are going to be a 1 now. So that's the result, ORed. Right? Okay, moving on. Let's talk about XOR. XOR is kind of different from AND and OR. It's notated with the caret. And let's actually change the numbers this time to demonstrate it a little better. So 60 XORed with 13. What that's going to give us, let's do that in binary first. So we have 0, 2 zeros, 4 ones, 2 zeros again. And then that's 60. This is 60. And then let's do 13, 4 zeros, 11, 2 ones, 0, 1. All right. So here's our numbers in binary. So XOR, what it does, the two sides must be different in order to yield 1 or true. And if they're not, they yield false, which is 0. All right. So 0, 0, which is 0, 0, 0, which is 0, 1, 0, which is 1, 1, 0, which is 1, 1, 1, they're both the same, so it's 0, 1, 1 again, 0, 0, 0, you get 0 again, and 0, 1, you get 1. And this number should be 49. We'll test it out right now. As you can see, we built it, and we got 49. So that concludes this tutorial on bitwise operators. We hope to see you next time. So now let's talk about complex arithmetic. This will be done with basically the parentheses. So let's take the example from last time. But this time we're going to add parentheses around a certain part. So we're going to have 25 times 15 plus 33 all divided by 2.0. That's what that means basically. So what this is the same as, this isn't the same as the previous in the previous tutorial's example. What this is basically, so we're going to set a equal to 25 times 15 plus 33. So what you can see here is with parentheses, we take even higher precedence. So everything inside the parentheses is taken as one result while still abiding by precedence rules. So this becomes one result, and then this is another result. So everything inside the parentheses is calculated first, and then everything on the outside is calculated then. So this is the same. Let's write this out. We'll demonstrate this. We'll demonstrate that this is not the same as in the previous tutorial. So we're gonna print that, and then we're gonna print A divided by B. And we're gonna build. As you can see, we don't have the same result as last time. We have a different one. All right, so now let's say we have something even more complex. Like, let me just write this out. So we're going to have 5.0 times, open more parentheses. As you can see, we're going to use a lot of parentheses now to show how complex things can get. Minus 2, in parentheses, of course, divided by 4 plus 1, all divided by 2. All right, so what we did here is that we are dividing everything we're actually doing operations with different kinds of mathematical formulas. So let's demonstrate this. Hold on, I'm missing a parenthesis somewhere. Just give me a sec. So that's a parentheses. So we do have one around, oh, we're missing an 8. Whoops, I've forgotten 8. 8, there we go. And so now we have a bunch of parentheses here. As you can see, there are lots of parentheses. I keep repeating myself here. So parentheses inside parentheses are going to take priority despite the mathematical operations involved. So let's do this. I forgot a parentheses. All right, so this parentheses bunch is going to be calculated, and this one is going to be calculated, and this result is then going to be calculated, and then this is going to be added to 8. And then this whole thing is going to be one result multiplied with 5, and then divided with 2. And then this whole result is going to be modulo 4. We'll write this out, don't worry. So we're going to do A equals 16 minus 2.0. Then we're going to do B equals 4 plus 1. And then we're going to have C, which equals A divided by B. And then we're going to have D equals 8. And then we're going to have E equals D plus C. And then we're going to have F, which is equal to E divided by 2. I'm kind of skipping here some things. I'm kind of mixing it up a little. But this is basically the precedence, how things go. What you could do for E instead is something like this. For example, 8, E is equal to 8 plus C. So an F is equal to E divided by 2. And G is going to be equal to 5.0 times F, my bad. And I made a mistake here. I forgot the equal sign. I forgot one here too. So C equals, not plus. Got my mistake. So G equals 5 times this whole thing. And then we have finally H, which is equal to G modulo 4. So as you can see, the precedence is as follows. So you take the very inner parentheses and you do the operations regardless of the ones of the operations outside. So let's print this out. So let's print the first one, the first line of code. Don't forget to close your parentheses and open the proper ones. And then we're gonna print, print H. As you can see, we got the same result. So these letters demonstrate the precedence with parentheses and complex arithmetic. And this concludes our tutorial. We hope to see you next time. Moving on, let's talk about division characteristics. So if many of you were wondering from the last tutorial, we didn't talk about division. Well, now we're going to talk about it. So we're going to write an example. Division is written with the slash key, print, let's do 2 divided by 5, 2 divided by 4, for example. Right, that's division. But as you can see here, we're dealing with integers. And if we build this, we'll get 0.5. So in this version of Python, it automatically interprets it as 0.5. But if we do something like this, for example, let's do 23, hold on a sec, 23 divided by 5. We get 4.6. So in other older versions of Python, we'll see that this won't return 4.6, rather it will return 4. But in this version, we're dealing with it automatically does it for us. So this is division. Now, in this case, we don't have to do, in order to get the floating point, we don't have to add a floating point number anymore. So we got the same result. So in this version of Python, it does it automatically. Moving on, let's talk about another binary operator with 2 slashes. What this is, it is the floor division operator. What this does means the result of this division will always be rounded down. You'll get the floor value. So let's build this. As you can see, we got 4. So we forced the values to be rounded down. So even if we do a floating point number, we will get 4 instead of when we do with a single slash, we'll get 4.6. Moving on, let's talk about the modulo operator. What this is you divide and you get the remainder of the division. So let's give an example. Let's do 5 modulo 4. What this will do, it'll give us 1 because 4 goes into 25 6 times, which is 24. 25 minus 24 equals 1. So we get the answer 1. And modulo, the real number, having floating point numbers and everything applies here too. So if we did 25 for modulo 4, we'll get 1.0. We'll get the result as a floating point number. Moving on, let's talk about variables again. So in one of our previous tutorial on variables, we can actually save our results of mathematical operations. So let's have variable A equals 2 plus 5. Let's have variable B equals 3.3 times 3. Let's have C equal 10.0 divided by 25. All right, so we have our saved variables. So let's print these out. So we're in our IDE now, so we can write multiple lines of code. And remember, Python does not use semicolons, it works by line. So let's have print, let's do A, and let's do build, and we get 7, which is 2.5. So the result of the mathematical operation was saved to the variable. And let's do the same for B. So we do print B, we get this result floating with the floating point number. And let's do C, and we get 0.4. So that concludes our tutorial. We'll hope to see you next time. Let's talk about operator precedence. So in Python, this kind of works similar to PEMDAS in real mathematics. So the hierarchy goes, the order of precedence, the priority goes parentheses, exponent, multiplication, division, modulo, addition, and subtraction. So let's demonstrate how some of these work. Well, just so you know, in a later tutorial, we'll be talking about parentheses later on in more complex arithmetic. So let's do some mathematical equations. So this following mathematical equation, let's do print in parentheses. Let's do 25 times 15 plus 33 divided by 2.0. This is the same as having A equals 25 times 15, B equals 33 divided by 2.0, and then adding the two together. As you can see, the precedence is 25 times 15, 33 divided by 2.0, and then you add them. So this is basically a simple demonstration of some of the precedence in Python. So let's build that. As you can see, what it did, 25 times 15, 33 divided by 2.0, and we yielded a real number. And then we're also going to demonstrate how this precedence is demonstrated in A equals this expression, B equals that expression, and A plus B. So let's do that, A plus B. We're going to remove this line and then build. As you can see, we had the same result twice. So this is basically the same precedence demonstration as this line of mathematics here. And that concludes this tutorial.